Marcus Chain sat alone in a modified fighter craft, surrounded by 500 enemy ships in the largest space battle formation ever assembled. The small vessel hung motionless in space, dwarfed by the massive warships arranged in perfect attack positions around Station Omega-7. "This is your final warning," came Hive Commander Zixthek's voice over the communication system. "Surrender immediately or face the combined might of the Liberation Coalition." Marcus activated his response channel. "Hive Commander, I want you to understand something before this starts. I didn't choose this fight. You brought 500 ships to threaten innocent civilians. That makes you the aggressor? We seek only to eliminate a threat to galactic freedom. No, you seek to destroy what you don't understand." Marcus powered up his ship's systems. "Let me show you the difference. Instead of weapons," Marcus had loaded his fighter with something far more dangerous: kinetic penetrator rounds designed for asteroid mining, mining charges meant for breaking up space debris, and industrial cutting lasers used for salvage operations. To any scanner, his ship looked like a maintenance vessel. But Marcus understood something the Liberation Coalition didn't. In space, any tool could become a weapon if you knew how to use it properly. His first target was obvious: the Coalition's command ship. A massive vessel at the center of the formation where Hive Commander Zixthek was coordinating the attack. But reaching it would require passing through multiple layers of defensive ships. Marcus began his approach at a deceptively slow pace, appearing to drift randomly through space like a piece of debris. The Coalition ships ignored him, focusing instead on the station they believed to be his true objective. When he reached optimal range, Marcus fired his first mining charge. The explosive device, designed to break apart asteroids, struck the Coalition ship's energy shield generator. The resulting explosion didn't destroy the ship, but it eliminated their defensive screens. Before the crew could react, Marcus fired a kinetic penetrator directly into the exposed power coupling. The massive warship went dark and began tumbling out of control. "What happened to Destroyer 7? Zixthek's voice carried over the fleet communications. Marcus was already moving toward his next target, using the disabled ship's bulk to mask his approach. The Coalition fleet was designed to fight other large ships in formal battle lines. They weren't prepared for something small, fast, and unpredictable. His second target was a Crethanary heavy cruiser positioned to protect the command ship's flank. Marcus approached from below, where the ship's weapons couldn't track him, and used his industrial cutting laser to slice through the vessel's main structural support beam. The cruiser simply broke apart, its own mass tearing it into pieces. "Multiple ships reporting system failures," someone reported over the Coalition frequency. "Destroyer 7 is dead in space. Heavy cruiser Venom has broken apart. We can't locate the source of." Marcus silenced the communication by putting a kinetic round through their primary relay satellite. The Coalition fleet was suddenly deaf and blind to coordinated command. Without central coordination, the various species in the Coalition began reverting to their own tactical doctrines. The Crethanary ships moved into aggressive attack formations. The Ashanti vessels tried to maintain elegant defensive positions. Other species scattered to implement their own strategies. Marcus exploited the confusion. Mercilessly, he used mining charges to create debris fields that forced ships out of formation. He targeted life support systems with precision shots that forced crews to focus on survival instead of combat. He eliminated communication arrays, navigation systems, and weapon control centers with the methodical precision of someone who had spent his entire life studying how to break things. "This is impossible," Zixthek's voice came through emergency channels. "Our sensors can barely track him." "How can one small ship?" Marcus cut off the transmission by destroying the command ship's main communication array with a well-placed shot. Then he turned his attention to the vessel's main reactor. The Hive Commander's ship was heavily armored and protected by multiple defensive systems. But Marcus had noticed something during his approach. The ship's reactor exhaust ports were positioned to vent directly aft. Creating a predictable weak point in the armor, he maneuvered behind the command ship and fired a mining charge directly into the reactor exhaust. The explosion traveled back through the venting system and disabled the ship's main power core. Hive Commander Zixthik found himself floating in a dead ship, surrounded by the scattered remains of what had been the most powerful military force in galactic history. "How?" came his voice over emergency short-range communication. "How is this possible?" Marcus drifted his small fighter closer to the disabled command ship. "Hive Commander, you made the mistake of thinking that military power comes from having the biggest ships and the most advanced weapons. Then where does it come from?" "From understanding that every system has weaknesses, every formation has flaws, and every plan falls apart when someone does something you didn't expect." Marcus surveyed the debris field that had once been the Liberation Coalition. Ships drifted powerless throughout the system. Some had been disabled by precise strikes to critical systems. Others had been destroyed by their own weapons when Marcus turned their targeting computers against them. A few had simply fled when their commanders realized they were facing something beyond their understanding. "Mr. Chun," came Admiral Vextar's voice over a secure channel. "Status report?" "Threat neutralized, Admiral. Coalition fleet is scattered and disabled. No casualties among station personnel." "And the enemy casualties?" Marcus considered this. "Minimal, actually. Most of their ships are just disabled. Their crews are alive but stuck in dead vessels. They'll need rescue, but they're not in immediate danger." "You could have destroyed them all. Yes, why didn't you?" Marcus guided his fighter back toward the station. "Because, Admiral, the goal isn't to kill people. The goal is to stop threats. These ships are no longer a threat." As he docked at the station, Marcus found Admiral Vextar, Commander Zephes, and a crowd of other officers waiting for him. Their expressions ranged from awe to fear to simple confusion. "Mr. Chun," Admiral Vextar said carefully, "the Council has asked me to make you an offer." "What kind of offer?" "Command of the Combined Defense Fleet. Essentially, you would become the military leader of all Council forces." Marcus considered this while he secured his equipment. "Admiral, what happens to soldiers who become too powerful for their own governments to control?" I don't know. They get put back in cryosleep." Marcus smiled. "Or they find themselves facing unfortunate accidents during combat missions." Commander Zephes stepped forward. "Mr. Chun, surely you don't think the Council would—" "Commander, 3 days ago I was a forgotten relic from an ancient war. Now, I'm the most dangerous individual in known space. How long do you think it will be before someone decides I'm too dangerous to be left active?" Admiral Vextar realized the truth of what Marcus was saying. The man had just defeated 3 separate fleets with minimal resources and no support. That level of individual capability would terrify any government. "What will you do?" Vextar asked. Marcus gathered his gear and headed for the door. "What I've always done, Admiral. Find a quiet place to wait until someone needs threats eliminated, and if the Council tries to stop you." Marcus paused at the doorway. "Admiral, the Council woke me up to protect 12 million civilians from the Crithanery." "I did that." "They needed someone to stop the Ashanti Empire." "I did that too." "They required assistance dealing with the Liberation Coalition." "Mission accomplished. But if anyone decides that I'm the threat that needs to be stopped, Marcus's smile was absolutely terrifying. "Well, they've seen what I can do to people who threaten innocent civilians." As Marcus Chun disappeared into the corridors of Station Omega-7, Admiral Vextar realized that the galaxy had just learned something fundamental about humans. They weren't the galaxy's saviors, and they weren't its conquerors. They were something far more dangerous. They were the galaxy's conscience, backed by the absolute will and capability to enforce it, and somewhere in the depths of space, on forgotten worlds and hidden stations, other humans slept in cryopods, waiting to be awakened when the galaxy needed them again. The universe had just become a much safer place for the innocent, and a much more dangerous place for anyone who threatened them. Marcus Chen found a quiet observation lounge and sat down to watch the stars, content in the knowledge that he had done his job. Somewhere out there, 12 million civilians were going about their daily lives, safe and protected. It was enough. The emergency klaxon screamed through the corridors of the galactic defense. Station Omega-7 as Admiral Vexstar slammed his four-clawed hand against the control panel. The massive viewscreen displayed the approaching Crethanary invasion fleet, thousands of black ships moving like a swarm of deadly insects across the starfield. "Sir, they'll be in firing range in 6 hours," reported Lieutenant Commander Zephy's, her blue-scaled face tight with worry. "Our defense fleet is outnumbered 50 to 1. Admiral Vexstar's reptilian features twisted in frustration. The Crethanary had been the galaxy's nightmare for 3 centuries. They consumed entire worlds, turning planets into empty husks. No military force had ever successfully stopped a full invasion fleet this size. "What about the Council's emergency protocols?" asked Vexstar, his voice carrying the weight of desperation. Commander Zephy's pulled up a holographic display. "There is one option, sir. Archive 7 contains cryopods from the Human Coalition War. The records show exceptional combat effectiveness, but ... She hesitated. "But what, Commander?" "The humans were intense, sir. The Council sealed them away for a reason. Their methods were considered too extreme, even by wartime standards." Admiral Vexstar stared at the approaching fleet. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a city. The station housed 12 million civilians from across 40 different species. There was no time for evacuation. "Show me the files," he ordered. The hologram shifted, displaying dozens of human cryopods in Archive 7. Each pod contained detailed service records. Vexstar's eyes widened as he read the combat statistics. One name stood out among the rest: Marcus Chun, Master Sergeant, 2nd Reconnaissance Division. "This human," Vexstar pointed to Chun's record. "It says here he has 2,847 confirmed eliminations across 73 battlefields. How is that possible?" "According to the files, he was their best sniper. The report mentions something called impossible shots and defying physics, sir. Some of these kill records show targets eliminated from distances that should be mathematically impossible." Vexstar scrolled through more data. Chun had single-handedly held off an entire enemy regiment for 8 days on Proxima Station. He'd eliminated hostile commanders from ranges exceeding 20 kilometers. The final note in his file simply read, "Recommend immediate cryo storage. Subject's capabilities exceed safe operational parameters." "Wake him up," Vexstar decided. "Sir, the psychological evaluations suggest..." "Commander, in 4 hours, 12 million people die unless we do something. Wake the human." 20 minutes later, Vexstar stood in Archive 7 watching medical technicians work on the cryopod. Steam hissed as the ancient system slowly brought Marcus Chun back to consciousness. The human appeared to be in his early 30s with short dark hair and lean muscle definition that suggested decades of combat conditioning. Chun's eyes snapped open with startling suddenness. Within seconds, he'd assessed his surroundings and sat up, completely alert. His gaze fixed on Admiral Vexstar with unsettling intensity. "Where am I?" Chun asked, his voice calm despite just awakening from centuries of frozen sleep. "Galactic Defense Station Omega-7, Vexstar replied. "I'm Admiral Vexstar of the United Species Council. We need your help." Chun looked around the room, taking in the alien technology and non-human faces of the medical staff. "How long was I under?" 312 years. Marcus absorbed this information without visible emotion. "What's the situation?" "Crethanary invasion fleet. 12,000 ships. They'll be here in under 4 hours." Chun stood, moving with fluid precision that made the guards unconsciously step back. "I'll need my equipment and a tactical briefing. Also, I need to know what weapons technology you have available." "Mr. Chun," Vexstar said carefully, "our records indicate you were extremely effective, but this is a space battle. Thousands of ships. Even our best pilots can't..." Marcus interrupted him with a slight smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Admiral, you woke me up for a reason. Either you trust me to do my job, or you put me back in the freezer. But if you want those ships stopped, I need gear and intel, now." The certainty in the human's voice was both reassuring and deeply unsettling. Vexstar had commanded fleets for 40 years, but something about this awakened human made him feel like a cadet again. Very well. Commander Zephy's will brief you on current technology and threat assessment. Your equipment is in Storage Bay 7. As they walked toward the briefing room, Zephy's whispered to the Admiral, "Sir, what if the old reports were wrong?" "What if he can't?" Marcus turned his head slightly, and both officers realized he'd heard every word despite being 10 feet ahead of them. "Commander," Marcus said without breaking stride, "I've been asleep for 3 centuries. I'm curious to see how warfare has evolved. But physics is physics, and targets are targets. The only question is whether your technology can keep up with what needs to be done." The briefing room fell silent as Marcus Chun studied the tactical displays. 3 hours remained until the Chthoniry fleet arrived. The holographic projection showed their defensive capabilities, 47 ships, automated defense platforms, and energy shields protecting the station. "Your weapons technology has improved," Marcus noted, examining the specifications. "Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, energy shields. But your tactics are still thinking in 3 dimensions. Commander Zephy's frowned. "I don't understand." "Space combat is 3-dimensional. Marcus manipulated the hologram, rotating it to show different angles. "You're thinking like prey. Defensive positions, holding formations, trying to absorb damage. The Chthoniry expect that. They've been winning wars for centuries because everyone fights them the same way." Admiral Vexstar leaned forward. "What do you propose?" "I need to see their formation patterns and movement predictions." Marcus pulled up the enemy fleet analysis. "Interesting. They're moving in a standard consumption formation. Dreadnoughts at the center, fighters and bombers in protective shells around them. They plan to overwhelm your defenses with sheer numbers. That's exactly what our tactical computers predicted," said Zephy's. "Then your computers are thinking like prey." "Too." Marcus smiled that cold smile again. "Show me your best long-range ship." They brought up specifications for the USV Nightfall, a stealth reconnaissance vessel designed for deep space observation. Marcus studied its capabilities for several minutes. "This will work. I need this ship, full ammunition load, and your best pilot." "Mr. Chun," Admiral Vexstar said carefully, "that ship has minimal armament. It's designed for surveillance, not combat." "Admiral, I need to ask you something important. How many shots does your best ship-to-ship gunner need to disable an enemy vessel?" Zephy's consulted her datapad. "Our top gunners average 8 to 12 direct hits to penetrate enemy shields and armor. How many shots do I need?" Marcus asked. I don't understand the question." Marcus walked to the weapon specifications display. "Show me the most powerful single-shot weapon in your arsenal." "That would be the Quantum Lance," Vexstar replied. "Mounted on our dreadnoughts. It can punch through any known armor, but it takes 40 seconds to charge and has limited ammunition. Mount one on the Nightfall." "Impossible." "The power requirements alone would make it possible," Marcus interrupted. "Strip everything non-essential. Life support for 2 people, propulsion, the lance, and targeting systems. Nothing else." Vexstar and Zephy's exchanged glances. "Even if we could modify the ship in time, what's your plan?" "1 ship against 12,000. Marcus studied the enemy formation again. "In my era, we had a saying, 'Kill the head and the body dies.' Every military formation has command hierarchies. Take out the right ships in the right order, and you can cause cascade failures throughout their entire fleet." "But how could you possibly identify command ships from such distances?" "Pattern recognition, watch." Marcus manipulated the hologram, highlighting specific ships in the Chthoniry formation. "See how these 7 vessels are positioned? They're not in optimal combat positions. They're in communication positions. Command ships prioritize coordination over firepower placement." Zephy stared at the display. I never noticed that pattern. Most people don't. They see a massive fleet and feel overwhelmed. I see individual targets with specific purposes." Marcus pointed to another section. "These ships here? They're supply vessels disguised as fighters. Take out their ammunition supply, and their rate of fire drops by 60% after the first engagement. Admiral Vexstar realized he was witnessing something extraordinary. You can really identify all of this just from their formation? Admiral, I've spent my entire adult life studying how military forces move and operate. Doesn't matter if it's humans, aliens, or space fleets. Command structures create predictable patterns. The Crethanari have been using the same formation templates for centuries because they work against conventional tactics. Marcus highlighted more ships. Fleet commanders, communication relays, ammunition supply, shield coordination vessels, and the primary command ship. He marked 17 specific targets. Remove these ships in sequence, and their entire fleet becomes a disorganized mob. The ranges involved would be enormous, Zephes protested. Even our best targeting computers can't guarantee accuracy at those distances. Marcus looked at her with those intense eyes. Commander, I don't miss. The certainty in his voice was absolute. Not confidence or bravado, just simple fact stated as plainly as saying the sky was black. The quantum lance has a maximum effective range of 50,000 kilometers. Admiral Vexstar said, "What's the maximum theoretical range?" Theoretical? The beam would maintain coherence for approximately 200,000 kilometers, but accuracy would be impossible. Marcus smiled. And that's my effective range. In the engineering bay, Chief Engineer Kordak watched his team strip the Nightfall down to its basic components. The little ship looked naked without its sensor arrays and auxiliary systems. This is madness, Kordak muttered as they installed the massive quantum lance. The power coupling alone could overload the entire ship. Marcus appeared beside him. Will it work? For maybe 6 shots before the systems burn out, Kordak admitted. And that's if you're lucky. 6 shots will be enough. The Zephyrian engineer stared at the human. You really think you can cripple an entire fleet with 6 shots? Marcus checked his equipment one final time. Chief, I once held off an entire enemy division with a rifle that held 8 rounds. The key isn't how much ammunition you have. It's knowing exactly where to put each shot. The modified Nightfall drifted silently through the asteroid field, its stealth systems hiding it from enemy sensors. Marcus sat in the gunner's position, studying the approaching Crethanari fleet through his targeting scope. The pilot, Lieutenant Crix, was the best in the fleet, but his hands trembled slightly on the controls. I've never been this close to a Crethanari invasion force, Crix whispered. How are you so calm? Marcus adjusted his targeting parameters. Fear is just information, Lieutenant. It tells you something dangerous is happening. Once you acknowledge that information, fear becomes useless. The massive enemy fleet filled the view screen. Up close, the Crethanari ships were even more terrifying. Each vessel was a dark, organic-looking structure covered in weapon ports. The largest ships were over 4 kilometers long, moving with predatory grace through space. Target acquisition beginning, Marcus announced into his communicator. Admiral, I need your ships to maintain current position. Do not engage until I give the signal. Admiral Vexstar's voice crackled back. Understood. Our sensors show you're at 180,000 kilometers from the fleet. That's far beyond maximum weapon range. Not for me. Marcus centered his crosshairs on the first target, a sleek vessel positioned between 2 massive dreadnoughts. To anyone else, it looked like a standard escort ship, but Marcus had identified its true purpose from its positioning and communication patterns. Fleet Coordination Vessel. The targeting computer showed a firing solution with less than 12% probability of success. Marcus ignored the computer and relied on his own calculations. Wind speed in space was 0. Gravity from nearby asteroids would pull the beam slightly downward. The target ship was accelerating at a predictable rate. Firing solution locked, Marcus said calmly, the quantum lance charged with a deep humming sound that vibrated through the ship's hull. Energy readings spiked as the weapon drew massive amounts of power from the ship's reactor. Lance charged and ready, Crix reported. His voice tight with tension. Marcus took a slow breath and squeezed the trigger. The beam lanced out across space. invisible except for the brief flash when it left the weapon. For several seconds, nothing seemed to happen. Then, 180,000 kilometers away, the Crethenari coordination vessel simply ceased to exist. The quantum beam had punched completely through its hull and detonated its reactor core. The effect on the enemy fleet was immediate. Ships began changing course randomly as local commanders lost contact with fleet coordination. 3 smaller vessels collided as they tried to avoid each other without central guidance. "Impossible," Crix breathed. "You actually hit it." "Target 2, Marcus said, already acquiring his next shot. This time he aimed for a heavily armored ship near the center of the formation. To the Crethenari, it looked like their safest vessel. To Marcus, its position and protection level marked it clearly as the fleet's primary ammunition supply vessel. The second shot took 43 seconds to reach its target. When it hit, the resulting explosion destroyed not only the supply ship but 3 vessels around it. Secondary explosions rippled through that section of the fleet as ammunition and fuel stores detonated. "My God," Admiral Vextara's voice came through the com. "Their entire left flank is in chaos." Marcus was already lining up his third shot. This target was the most dangerous, the primary command vessel. It was buried deep in the center of the formation, surrounded by layers of protective ships. But Marcus had identified it by watching the patterns of other vessels. Every ship in the fleet made tiny course corrections based on signals from that one vessel. "This shot is at maximum theoretical range," Crix warned. 200,000 kilometers, I see the target." Marcus made minute adjustments to his aim. At this distance, he had to account for the rotation of 3 different planets, the gravitational field of a nearby moon and the target's acceleration pattern. His mind processed the ballistics automatically, the same way other people breathed. The third shot took 51 seconds to reach its target. When it struck the command vessel, the entire Crethenari fleet seemed to pause. For nearly a minute, 12,000 ships held position as if frozen, then chaos erupted, without central command. Local ship commanders began issuing conflicting orders. Some vessels tried to retreat. Others attempted to continue the attack. Many simply held position, waiting for orders that would never come. In the confusion, dozens of ships collided or opened fire on each other by mistake. "Fourth target," Marcus announced. This time he chose a ship that looked completely unremarkable among the thousands of others. But Marcus had noticed something the others missed. This vessel was the communication relay hub, retransmitting signals between different fleet elements. Its destruction would make coordination even more impossible. The fourth shot eliminated the communication ship and left the enemy fleet completely deaf and blind to centralized command. "Sir," Crix said, staring at his sensors, "their formation is completely collapsing. Half the fleet is moving in random directions." Marcus studied the chaos through his scope. "Time for Phase 2. Admiral, begin your attack. Target the ships that are still maintaining formation." "Mr. Chun?" "There are still over 10,000 functional enemy vessels." "Not for long." Marcus acquired his 5th target, a large vessel trying to establish local command over a section of the scattered fleet. "The beautiful thing about military hierarchies, Admiral, is that when you remove the top levels, the people below start trying to take control, which makes them very easy to identify." The 5th shot eliminated the would-be local commander, along with the 50 ships that had begun following its orders. The explosion was large enough to be seen with the naked eye from the station. Marcus began charging the quantum lance for his final shot. The weapon systems were already showing signs of strain, and sparks flew from several control panels. "1 shot left," Crix warned. "The lance is overloading." Marcus had already selected his final target, a massive dreadnought, near the rear of the formation that was trying to rally the scattered fleet elements. Its commander was broadcasting on all frequencies, attempting to restore order. "This is for effect," Marcus said, and fired his last shot. The 6th quantum lance beam traveled across space and struck the massive dreadnought exactly at its reactor core. The explosion was so enormous that it created a brief artificial star, visible from the surface of 3 planets. The shockwave destroyed 17 nearby ships and sent dozens more tumbling out of control. As the light faded, Marcus surveyed his work. The once mighty Chthonary invasion fleet was scattered across millions of cubic kilometers of space. Ships drifted powerless, crews dead or unconscious from the massive explosions. Others fled in random directions, no longer a coordinated force. The few vessels still functioning were being easily destroyed by Admiral Vextar's defense fleet. "Fleet status report," Marcus requested calmly. "Sir," came the stunned reply from the station. "Enemy fleet is ... destroyed, scattered, or in full retreat. Total engagement time, 18 minutes. Casualties, 6 shots fired. 6 targets destroyed. 0 friendly losses." Lieutenant Crick stared at the human sniper in disbelief. "How did you know exactly which ships to hit?" Marcus powered down his scope and leaned back in his chair. "Lieutenant, every military force is just a machine. Take out the right parts in the right order, and the whole machine stops working. Doesn't matter if it's 6 soldiers or 12,000 spaceships." News of the impossible victory spread across the galaxy within hours. The Chthonary, who had been an unstoppable force for 3 centuries, had been completely destroyed by a single human with 6 shots. Admiral Vextar found himself fielding communications from every major world in the United Species Council. "Admiral," called Commander Zephyrs, her voice tight with concern, "we're receiving priority communications from 17 different planetary governments. They all want to know about the human." Vextar rubbed his scaled temples. The questions were all variations of the same theme. How was it possible? Where had the human come from? Were there others like him? And most importantly, could he be controlled? Marcus Chun sat in the station's observation lounge, calmly eating a meal of synthesized proteins while watching the debris field that had once been a massive invasion fleet. He seemed completely unaffected by the magnitude of what he'd accomplished. "Mr. Chun," Admiral Vextar approached carefully, "I've been trying to understand your service records. The files mention something called the Kepler Station Incident. What exactly happened there?" Marcus looked up from his meal. "Classified. The war ended 3 centuries ago. Some things stay classified." Marcus returned his attention to his food. "Is there something specific you need to know?" Vextar sat down across from him. "The Council is asking questions. They want to understand how one person could be so ... defective. Admiral, in my time, humans were considered a minor species. We had average technology, average ships, average everything. But we had one advantage that other species didn't. Which was?" Marcus gestured toward the debris field. "We were very, very good at killing things." The Admiral felt a chill run down his spine. "Mr. Chun, some of the Council members are concerned about the implications of having humans with your capabilities active in the galaxy." Marcus's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes grew colder. "Are they threatening me, Admiral?" No. They're just asking questions about Admiral." Marcus's voice cut through the explanation like a blade. "I've been asleep for 3 centuries. I wake up to find my entire species scattered to the winds, my government gone, my war forgotten. The only thing I've left is my training and my purpose." Vextar swallowed hard. "What is your purpose?" "To eliminate threats. You woke me up to stop the Chthonary. I stopped them. If the Council has a problem with my methods, they should have thought about that before defrosting a human weapon." At that moment, Lieutenant Commander Zephyrs burst into the observation lounge. "Admiral, we have a situation. Long-range sensors are detecting another fleet approaching. It's not Chthonary." They moved quickly to the command center, where the main display showed a new threat. These ships were different, sleek, silver vessels moving in precise formations. The designs were unfamiliar but clearly advanced. "Who are they?" Vextar demanded. "Unknown, sir. But they're broadcasting a message on all frequencies." The main screen activated, showing a tall, elegant alien with pale blue skin and large black eyes. When it spoke, its voice was melodious, but carried an undertone of absolute authority. "I am High Commander Velther of the Ashanti Empire. We come in response to the destruction of our client fleet. The Crithaneri were under our protection. Their destruction is an act of war against the Ashanti. Admiral Vextar felt his blood freeze. The Ashanti Empire was a legend, a mysterious force that supposedly controlled entire sectors of space beyond the known galaxy. Most council members believe they were just stories. We demand the immediate surrender of the weapon that destroyed our clients, Velther continued. If this demand is not met within 1 standard hour, we will demonstrate the consequences of defying the Ashanti Empire. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. How many ships? Marcus asked calmly. Sensors show approximately 300 vessels, Zephes replied. But Admiral, the energy readings from those ships, they're unlike anything in our databases. Each one appears to be more powerful than our largest dreadnoughts. Marcus studied the tactical display. Interesting formation. They're not positioning for immediate attack. They want to negotiate. Mr. Chun, Admiral Vextar said carefully, the Ashanti Empire supposedly has technology centuries ahead of anything we've seen. If they're real, if these are really their ships, then we're about to find out how real they are. Marcus stood up. I need another ship, something faster than the Nightfall. The Quantum Lance is burned out? Our engineers say it would take weeks to build another one. Marcus smiled that cold smile again. Admiral, the Lance was useful for long-range work, but it's not my only option. Show me your weapons inventory. In the armory, Marcus examined the station's arsenal with professional interest. Most of the weapons were energy-based, plasma rifles, particle beams, quantum disruptors. He picked up a simple projectile weapon, an old kinetic rifle used for training. This will work. Mr. Chun, said Chief Engineer Kordak, that's an antique training weapon. It fires simple metal projectiles. Against shields and modern armor, it would be completely useless. Not if you know where to shoot. Marcus checked the weapon's action. What's your fastest ship? The Interceptor class. Top speed, maximum maneuverability, but minimal armor and weapons? Perfect. Load one with kinetic projectiles and standard explosives. No energy weapons, no advanced technology. Admiral Vextar stared at him. You want to attack an advanced alien fleet with primitive weapons? Admiral, advanced technology creates predictable vulnerabilities. Energy shields, for example, are designed to stop energy weapons. Kinetic projectiles? Marcus hefted the rifle. Physics is physics. 30 minutes later, Marcus was aboard the fastest ship in the fleet. A small interceptor called the Dart. The pilot, Ensign Yara, was young but skilled. Her 6-armed Hillyrian physiology perfect for complex piloting maneuvers. Sir, Yara said nervously, we're approaching the Ashanti fleet. They're hailing us. Ignore them. Take us directly toward their command ship. How do you know which one is the command ship? Marcus studied the enemy formation through his scope. Same principles apply. Watch the patterns of movement, the positioning priorities. That ship there, the one that's holding position while others adjust around it, that's command. The Ashanti fleet was beautiful in a terrifying way. Each ship was a work of art, flowing curves and elegant lines that somehow managed to look both graceful and deadly. Energy patterns danced along their hulls, and Marcus could see weapon ports that appeared to bend space itself. Sir, they're powering weapons, Yara reported. Energy readings are off the charts. Stay on course. The lead Ashanti ship fired a warning shot that turned a nearby asteroid into vapor. The message was clear: stop or be destroyed. Sir, we should really... Trust me, Ensign. Marcus had noticed something important about the Ashanti ships. Their elegant design created a specific vulnerability. The energy patterns flowing along their hulls were beautiful, but they also revealed the location of critical systems. And more importantly, those energy fields were projected outward from the ship's hull, leaving a small gap between the field and the actual armor. Range to target? 80,000 kilometers in closing. Marcus raised his simple kinetic rifle and sighted through the scope. The targeting computer showed impossible odds. But Marcus had never relied on computers for the shots that really mattered. He fired. The simple metal projectile traveled across space at a significant fraction of light speed. It passed through the Ashanti ship's energy shields without triggering them, since they were calibrated to stop energy weapons. It punched through the elegant hull armor and struck something critical deep inside the ship. The massive Ashanti vessel simply stopped. All power died, all movement ceased. It hung in space like a giant piece of space debris. Impossible, Ensign Yara whispered. Marcus was already acquiring his second target. Ensign, the most advanced technology in the galaxy, still relies on basic engineering principles. Power cores, life support, command centers. Hit the right spot, and it doesn't matter how sophisticated your shields are. The second shot disabled another command vessel. The third eliminated what appeared to be a communication relay ship. With each shot, the Ashanti formation grew more confused and disorganized. "Sir," Yara said in amazement, "their weapons aren't tracking us. It's like they can't lock onto us." Marcus nodded. "Their targeting systems are probably designed to track energy signatures and advanced technology. We're flying a simple ship with simple weapons. To their sensors, we probably look like space debris." By the time Marcus had fired his 10th shot, the legendary Ashanti Empire fleet was in complete disarray. Half their ships were dead in space, the others were retreating to safer distances, and their commander was broadcasting surrender requests on all frequencies. "This is High Commander Velther. We request immediate ceasefire. Our instruments cannot explain what is happening to our ships." Marcus lowered his rifle and activated the communication system. "Commander, this is Sergeant Marcus Chun of Earth. Your ships are being disabled because you made the mistake of assuming that advanced technology makes you invincible. You're wrong." There was a long pause before Velther responded. "Earth, but humans are a primitive species. Our records show they lack any significant technology. Your records are incomplete. We may not have the most, The surrender of the Ashanti Empire sent shockwaves across known space. Within days, delegations from dozens of species arrived at Station Omega-7, all wanting to see the human who had single-handedly defeated two of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. Marcus found the attention irritating. He preferred quiet spaces where he could think and plan, but Admiral Vextar insisted he attend at least some of the diplomatic meetings. "The Council needs to understand what you represent," Vextar explained as they walked toward the main conference room. "Some species see you as a savior. Others see you as a threat. They need to know which one you are." "I'm neither," Marcus replied. "I'm a soldier who follows orders. You gave me a mission, I completed it. But whose orders will you follow now?" Marcus stopped walking. "That's an interesting question, Admiral. Who do you think should give me orders?" Before Vextar could answer, they were interrupted by the arrival of Commander Zephys, running at full speed down the corridor. "Admiral, emergency communication from the Terran Colonial Authority. They're demanding immediate custody of Sergeant Chun." Vextar felt his stomach drop. "The Terran Colonial Authority? I thought all human governments were defunct." "Apparently not, sir. They claim authority over all human military personnel and are threatening military action if we don't comply." Marcus's expression grew very cold. "Show me this communication." In the conference room, they activated the message. The speaker was a middle-aged human woman in a pristine military uniform, standing in what appeared to be a modern command center. "This is Admiral Sarah Morrison of the Terran Colonial Authority. We demand the immediate return of Master Sergeant Marcus Chun to proper human military jurisdiction. Sergeant Chen is a WOL from his assigned duty and must report for reassignment immediately." The message continued with legal justifications and threats of economic sanctions. When it ended, the room fell silent. "Mr. Chun," Admiral Vextar said carefully, "do you recognize this authority?" Marcus studied the frozen image of Admiral Morrison. "I've never heard of the Terran Colonial Authority. When I was put in cryo sleep, Earth was barely managing one functioning government. This woman looks well-fed, well-equipped, and very confident." "What does that mean?" It means someone has been building power while everyone else thought humans were scattered and weak. Marcus turned to face the Admiral. I need complete intelligence on current human colonies, populations, and military capabilities. Commander Zephy's pulled up what information they had. According to our records, humans maintain colonies on 47 worlds. Total population approximately 2 billion. Most are classified as developing worlds with limited technology. Your records are wrong, Marcus said after reviewing the data. Look at the details. Agricultural output that exceeds consumption by 300%. That's not subsistence farming, that's feeding a military. Mining operations on worlds with no significant civilian population. Shipyards listed as commercial but building vessels with obviously military specifications. Admiral Vexstar studied the data with new eyes. You're saying humans have been hiding their true capabilities? I'm saying humans have been preparing for something. The question is what? Their discussion was interrupted by proximity alarms. The main display showed new arrivals, a fleet of sleek, obviously human vessels dropping out of hyperspace. The ships were beautiful, advanced, and clearly designed for war. Incoming communication. Announced the duty officer, the view screen activated to show Admiral Morrison, now aboard the lead ship. This is Admiral Morrison requesting permission to come aboard Station Omega-7 to retrieve our personnel. Permission denied, Admiral Vexstar replied. Sergeant Chun is here under Council authority. Morrison smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. Admiral Vexstar, I'm not really asking permission. We've come to collect our property. Property? Marcus stepped into view of the camera. Admiral Morrison, last I checked, slavery was illegal under human law. Morrison's confident expression faltered slightly when she saw Marcus. Sergeant Chun, you look well for someone who's been declared dead for 3 centuries. Declared dead by whom? By proper military authority? Your cryosleep was meant to be temporary pending court-martial for excessive use of force. When no government existed to complete your trial, you were listed as killed in action. Marcus's voice remained calm, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. What were the charges? Unnecessary destruction of enemy forces, exceeding mission parameters, and refusing direct orders to limit civilian casualties in favor of enemy casualties. Admiral Vexstar stared at the human woman in disbelief. You were going to court-martial him for being too effective at protecting civilians? The sergeant has a history of extreme solutions. His methods, while effective, often result in complete destruction of enemy forces rather than proper military objectives. Marcus stepped closer to the camera. Admiral Morrison, what happened at Kepler Station? Morrison's face went pale. That's classified. Not anymore. What happened at Kepler Station? Morrison was quiet for several seconds before answering. You eliminated an entire enemy army. 40,000 soldiers in 6 hours. By yourself, they were shelling civilian shelters. The mission was to disable their artillery, not to eliminate their entire force structure. Marcus's smile was absolutely terrifying. They were murdering children, Admiral. I stopped them permanently. You used orbital debris and redirected asteroid impacts. You turned a simple artillery strike mission into a planetary bombardment. And it worked. Admiral Vexstar began to understand why Marcus had been put in cryo-sleep. The man wasn't just effective, he was absolutely unstoppable when he decided something needed to be done. Sergeant Chun, Morrison continued, you will report for transport immediately. The Terran Colonial Authority has need of your skills. For what purpose? Morrison's confident expression returned. To prepare for the coming war. What war? The one that's been building for 3 centuries while you slept. The galaxy has had its chance to develop peacefully. Now it's time for proper order to be established. Marcus studied her for a long moment. Admiral Morrison, I've seen your ship specifications. Your fleet could probably destroy this station and everything around it, if necessary. Here's what's going to happen instead. You're going to turn your ships around and leave this system. You're going to forget you ever found me. And you're going to hope I never decide that the Terran Colonial Authority needs to be stopped. Morrison laughed. Sergeant, you're one man with primitive weapons. I have a fleet of the most advanced ships in human space. Marcus walked to the weapons locker and retrieved his kinetic rifle. Admiral, would you like a demonstration of what one man with primitive weapons can accomplish? You wouldn't dare fire on human ships. Marcus aimed the rifle at the camera. Admiral, I don't see any humans on those ships. I see people who think they can threaten innocent civilians to get what they want. In my book, that makes you hostiles. Morrison's confident mask slipped completely. You can't fight an entire fleet from inside a space station. Watch me. Marcus turned to Admiral Vexstar. Admiral, I need two things. First, evacuate all civilians to the deepest parts of the station. Second, give me access to your external weapon platforms. Mr. Chun, those ships have shields and armor that... Admiral, shields and armor protect against expected threats. They don't protect against someone who understands that every defense has a weakness. Marcus shouldered his rifle. Besides, those ships are human-built. I know exactly how they work. On the view screen, Morrison was frantically giving orders to her fleet. All ships, prepare for combat operations. Target the station's weapons platforms, and her words were cut off as Marcus's first shot struck the lead ship. The kinetic round passed through the shields, penetrated the hull, and severed the main power coupling. The massive warship went dark and began drifting. How did he... Morrison's shocked voice came through before the communication cut off. Marcus was already acquiring his second target. Admiral Vexstar. The beautiful thing about human engineering is that we tend to put critical systems in predictable places. Power cores in the center for protection, communication arrays at the highest point for optimal signal. Weapon systems spread along the hull for maximum coverage. His second shot eliminated the fleet's communication ship. His third disabled their primary weapons platform. By the time he'd fired 6 shots, the entire human fleet was dead in space. Sir, Commander Zephy said in amazement, you just disabled an entire fleet of advanced warships with 6 bullets. Marcus lowered his rifle. Commander, advanced technology is still just technology. It follows rules, has predictable weak points, and can be defeated by someone who understands those rules better than the people who built it. He turned to Admiral Vexstar. Admiral, I think we need to have a serious conversation about what's really happening in this galaxy. Admiral Vexstar sat across from Marcus in his private office, reviewing intelligence reports that painted a disturbing picture. The disabled human fleet hung motionless outside the station. Their crews rescued but confined to quarters under guard. The pattern is becoming clear, Vexstar said, highlighting data points on his holographic display. For the past 50 years, human colonies have been consolidating resources, building infrastructure and developing military technology. But they've been hiding it all behind false reports of economic struggles and limited development. Marcus studied the intelligence with professional interest. Classic preparation for large-scale military operations. Build up forces while appearing weak, then strike when your enemies aren't ready. But strike at what? Humans have good relationships with most council species. Admiral, show me the colonial authorities' expansion patterns. The display shifted to show human colony locations over time. Marcus immediately spotted something troubling. They're not expanding randomly. Look at these positions. They're establishing strategic control over major hyperspace routes, resource-rich systems, and communication relay points. Strategic for what purpose? Marcus manipulated the display, connecting human colonies with lines. For surrounding and isolating every major alien homeworld in known space. Admiral Vexstar felt his blood run cold. You're saying this has all been preparation for a galaxy-wide invasion? I'm saying someone has been thinking very carefully about how to control galactic civilization. Marcus pointed to specific colonies. Establish bases here, here, and here, and you can cut off trade routes to the Zephyrian homeworld. Position fleets in these systems, and you can blockade the Hillyrian core worlds. It's textbook strategic positioning. At that moment, Commander Zephy's entered the office with disturbing news. Admiral, we've been monitoring communications from the disabled human ships. They're not rescue requests. They're status reports to something called Central Command. What kind of status reports? Sir, they're reporting that their Phase 1 reconnaissance has been completed. They've confirmed the location of you, Mr. Chun, and are requesting Phase 2 authorization. Marcus stood up abruptly. Show me those communications. All of them. As they reviewed the intercepted messages, a chilling picture emerged. The Terran Colonial Authority wasn't just a human government. It was a military organization that had been planning for decades to establish human dominance over the galaxy. Marcus's awakening and demonstration of capabilities had apparently triggered some kind of timeline acceleration. They're not trying to rescue me, Marcus realized. They were testing me. Seeing what I could do, how I would react, what my limitations might be. Testing you for what? To see if I could be controlled, or if I needed to be eliminated. Before anyone could respond, the station's emergency alarms began wailing. On the main display, hyperspace rifts were opening throughout the system. Ships began emerging, not just human vessels, but a vast fleet representing dozens of different species. Sir, reported the duty officer, we're detecting over 500 ships. Mixed fleet composition. They're broadcasting identification codes from the Crethanary remnant forces, Ashanti Empire vessels, and this can't be right, ships from at least 20 different species that were supposed to be at peace with the Council. Admiral Vexstar stared at the display in horror. They're all working together? Marcus was already moving toward the armory. Admiral, I think we've just discovered what the Terran Colonial Authority has been preparing for. They haven't just been building a human fleet. They've been organizing a galactic alliance against the Council. But why would all these species work together? They've been fighting each other for centuries. Because someone convinced them that the Council represents a greater threat than each other. Marcus gathered his equipment with practiced efficiency. Think about it. The Crethanary were unstoppable until one human destroyed their fleet. The Ashanti Empire was legendary until one human disabled their ships. What would that suggest to other aggressive species? Commander Zephy's understood first? They think humans are the real power behind the Council. Exactly. And if they believe the Council is just a human puppet state, then every species that wants independence from Council authority has a reason to ally against us. The massive fleet was arranging itself in a complex formation around the station. It was the largest military force ever assembled in known space. And its intentions were clearly hostile. Incoming communication, announced the duty officer, the main screen activated to show not Admiral Morrison, but a creature Marcus didn't recognize. It was tall, insectoid, with multiple arms and compound eyes that glittered with intelligence. I am Hive Commander Zixthek of the Liberation Coalition. We demand the immediate surrender of the human weapon known as Marcus Chun. This entity represents a threat to the freedom of all species in the galaxy. Admiral Vexstar stepped forward. Hive Commander, this station is under Council protection. We will not surrender anyone to a hostile force. Admiral Vexstar, your Council is a human puppet state designed to keep other species weak and dependent. The evidence is undeniable. Humans control galactic defense, humans control trade routes. And humans possess weapons capable of destroying any military force that opposes them. Marcus appeared in view of the camera. Hive Commander, you're operating under false information. The Council is not controlled by humans. The evidence suggests otherwise. One human destroyed the Crethanary invasion fleet. One human defeated the Ashanti Empire. One human disabled an advanced Terran Colonial Authority fleet. No species possesses such individual capability unless they have been hiding their true power for centuries. And what do you plan to do about it? Zixthek's compound eyes focused on Marcus with predatory intensity. We plan to eliminate the threat you represent and liberate the galaxy from human control. Marcus studied the massive fleet surrounding them. 500 ships from dozens of different species, all convinced that humans were secretly controlling galactic civilization. It would have been almost funny if it weren't so dangerous. Hive Commander, you've made a fundamental error in your reasoning. Explain. You assume that because I can destroy fleets, all humans can destroy fleets. That's like assuming that because one of your species is a brilliant commander, all of your species are brilliant commanders. Zixthek paused, considering this. You claim to be unique among humans? I claim to be exactly what I am. A soldier with specific training and experience. The fact that I'm effective doesn't mean my entire species is secretly controlling the galaxy. Nevertheless, you represent too great a threat to be allowed to continue operating freely. Marcus smiled that cold smile. Hive Commander, you've brought 500 ships to capture one human. What does that tell you about your chances of success? It tells me that we have prepared adequately for this threat. No, Marcus said quietly. It tells me that you fundamentally misunderstand what you're dealing with. He turned to Admiral Vextar. Admiral, evacuate the station. Get everyone to minimum safe distance. Mr. Chun, you can't possibly fight 500 ships. Marcus checked his equipment one final time. Admiral, I'm not going to fight 500 ships. I'm going to teach 500 ships why it was a mistake to threaten innocent people. He paused at the door of the armory. Oh, and Admiral? When this is over, we're going to have a very serious conversation with the Terran Colonial Authority about their role in creating this mess. As Marcus headed for the hangar bay, Admiral Vextar realized that the galaxy was about to learn something new about human capabilities. And he wasn't sure anyone was prepared for that lesson.